Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into the show. All right, guys, today we are going to be talking about quarterback wide receiver stacks. Now, this is one of my favorite things to talk about in fantasy because it's just so fun. I love drafting an awesome quarterback wide receiver stack. Nowadays, with the increased target share for wide receivers and the increased rushing upside for quarterbacks, quarterback wide receiver stacks are a pivotal part of winning your fantasy league. So I'm going to get started right here with the first quarterback wide receiver stack I have here. My number 5 quarterback wide receiver stack, and that is Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb. Now, the great thing about Dak Prescott is you can wait till a little bit later in the draft to get him. So, most of the quarterbacks I have on this list, you're going to have to draft a little bit higher. Dak, you can wait until like the 7th or 8th round to draft Dak Prescott. CeeDee Lamb is going to be a second-round pick. This is a guy who had 1,300 receiving yards this past season. He had 156 targets, so he's getting targeted heavily. He's seeing over 9 targets per game, which is what we want in a wide receiver. He finally had that breakout season that we were waiting for him to have. He was a top 7 wide receiver in fantasy. So I think that the Dak Prescott CeeDee Lamb stack can be awesome next year. You can wait until the 2nd round to grab CeeDee Lamb, and you can wait until like the 8th or 9th round to grab Dak Prescott. So you can get these guys at a very good price. And if you build your team around the Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb stack, I think that is going to be very beneficial for you. Next on my list is going to be one that I'm very excited about, and that is Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. Now, Jalen Hurts, guys, what a season he had. He finished as the quarterback 3 behind only Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen. And let's not forget that he missed 2 games late in the season, and he was the quarterback 1 before he had that injury that kept him out for 2 weeks. So had he played those 2 games, there's a very good chance he would have finished as the quarterback 1 and been ahead of both Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen. That's saying a lot. So we've got an ascending quarterback in Jalen Hurts. We've got a receiver in A.J. Brown, who is one of the most physically dominant wide receivers in the league. He has kind of the alpha build, he's got the speed, and he's just got the alpha type athleticism that we want, and a number 1 wide receiver. This last year, he had 88 receptions on 145 targets. So, the target count is there. He was top 12 in the league as far as red zone targets, so he's getting targeted heavily within the red zone, which is a crucial statistic for a wide receiver, probably the most important statistic for a wide receiver to have is, the high amount of red zone targets. He had that. So I love this stack in the coming season. Now, you're going to have to draft these guys pretty highly. Unlike Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, you're probably going to have to draft A.J. Brown at the first part of the 2nd round or maybe middle 2nd round. So you're going to have to pay a little bit of a price to get A.J. Brown. I have a good feeling that he's going to go ahead of CeeDee Lamb by 3-4 picks, so just a little bit. But when it comes to the quarterback end of the stack, you're going to have to draft Jalen Hurts way earlier than you draft Dak Prescott. But with that being the case, I still think it's very much worth it. He has a very good chance to finish as the quarterback 1, as we saw this past year when he came very close until he went down with his injury. So this wide receiver stack is going to be extremely beneficial for you. And I would stack this quarterback wide receiver combination if you want to have a huge edge in your fantasy league. Next on my list is going to be Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce. Now, for the sake of today's video, we're just going to call Travis Kelce a wide receiver, okay? Because that's basically what he is. This is a guy who, averages 8 to 9 targets a game from the tight end position. This guy had 19.2 fantasy points per game this past season from the tight end position. That is an absolute cheat code. This guy has eclipsed 1,000 receiving yards 7 seasons in a row. I mean, this is by far and away the most dominant tight end we've ever seen in fantasy, for PPR formats especially. So, if you're going to stack Mahomes and Kelce, this can easily win you your league if they stay healthy all season long. I mean, Mahomes was the quarterback 1 this past year, as we saw. He passed for over 5,000 yards. He was the only quarterback in the league to do that. And Travis Kelce is somebody who you're probably going to have to take in the 1st round this coming year, and he's getting a little bit older, but he just shows absolutely no signs of slowing down. This dude never misses games. He's never injured. So considering the fact that he's pretty much always going to be on the field for you, at least that's very likely, and, he has the chance to average, over 18 fantasy points per game at the tight end position next season, he is going to be a pivotal part of winning your fantasy league. So don't be afraid to draft this guy in the 1st round. Don't be afraid to draft Pat Mahomes around rounds 4 or 5. And if you're able to stack this quarterback wide receiver stack, you're going to be in very good shape. So Travis Kelce is a tight end, but for the sake of today's video, we're calling him a wide receiver. Stack Mahomes and Kelce. It's going to help you tremendously. Next on my list is going to be one that I'm very, very pumped up about, and that is Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase. Now, I think that Ja'Marr Chase has a very, very good chance of being next year's wide receiver one. I mean, this is a guy who, despite only playing 12 games, was third in the league in red zone targets. So this was something I really wanted to see from Ja'Marr Chase going into his second season, because his first season, he actually dominated on minimal target share, minimal red zone target share, because he just has so many big plays. So I wanted to see the target share go up in his sophomore season, and that's very much what happened. I mean, this guy was averaging close to 10 targets a game when he was actually on the field, and he only played 2/3 of the season and was third in the league in red zone targets. So I have very good reason to believe that he could easily be first in the league in red zone targets next year. He plays in an offense that gives you plenty of red zone opportunities, and they look his way a lot when they get into the red zone. So he's going to dominate the most important statistic for wide receivers in fantasy, and that's red zone targets. We know that he has tremendous big play ability. We know that being in the offense that he's in with the quarterback he has tremendous big play ability. And he's the type of wide receiver that has a ceiling of giving you over 200 receiving yards in a week. So this is an absolutely dominant wide receiver. I think he has a very good chance to be next year's wide receiver one. In fact, my prediction for next year's wide receiver one is getting very close to becoming Ja'Marr Chase. I really just think that he's going to be the guy. And when on the Joe Burrow end of the stack, you can get Joe Burrow as like the fifth quarterback off the board. You know, you don't have to pay as much of a premium as you do for Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes. And you pretty much get the same kind of upside. He doesn't have quite the rushing upside of Josh Allen, but he does have some rushing upside. And he has a lot more wide receiving weapons than Josh Allen. Josh Allen essentially just has, Stephon Diggs. You could argue, Gabe Davis is a wide receiving weapon. But the wide receiver core in Buffalo does not compare to the wide receiver core in Cincinnati, guys. We've got T. Higgins, Ja'Marr Chase, Tyler Boyd. So the amount of weapons that Joe Burrow has is going to be awesome for him. So I think that his ceiling is ridiculously high in the coming season. So if you want to stack Joe Burrow and Ja'Marr Chase, it could very well contribute to you winning your league. Next and final stack that I have here is one that I think everyone's sleeping on, and I've been talking about these guys in a lot of my recent videos because I can't stress the importance enough of getting these guys on your fantasy team, and that is DeSean Watson and Amari Cooper. Now, everybody's forgetting about DeSean Watson because we haven't seen him play in forever. This is kind of a natural thing that just kind of happens when somebody doesn't play for a long time. But DeSean Watson is one of the most talented dual-threat quarterbacks in this league. He has near Pat Mahomes-like passing abilities and better than Pat Mahomes-like rushing abilities. This guy is the definition of an elite dual-threat quarterback. He's now going to get an entire offseason to work with the team. We don't have to worry about any more suspensions like we did coming into this past season. And so, if you watch my quarterback wide receiver stack video that I made last offseason, I had DeSean Watson and Amari Cooper as my number one going into last season. And that was with the risk of DeSean Watson missing time. So obviously DeSean Watson missed the majority of the season, so that kind of killed our hopes of the DeSean Watson and Amari Cooper stack really coming to, benefit you. So we didn't get to see that last year, but now we don't have to worry about a suspension. He's going to get an entire offseason to work with the team. He's going to get to practice with the team in the preseason, unlike he did this past year. DeSean Watson's absolutely about to break out and be a top 3 quarterback in fantasy this next season, and you don't have to get him until like the 12th round of the draft because everyone's sleeping on him. And when it comes to Amari Cooper, well, you could get him in like the 5th or 6th round because people sleep on Amari Cooper every single season. And this is a guy who last year had a 26% target share. He had 78 receptions on 132 targets, and he had 1,160 receiving yards. And this is without having DeSean Watson for almost the entire season. So now look at what the Amari Cooper statistics are going to be like when DeSean Watson actually comes back. And there's going to be a lot of people that tell you that, these guys haven't had enough time to gel and everything like that. That's absolute BS. Amari Cooper is still very talented. He's been slept on his entire career. There's also going to be people that tell you that he's entering his, he's getting older, right? He's about to be 30 this next coming season, but that doesn't mean anything, guys. Just because a wide receiver is turning 30 does not automatically mean they're about to fall off a cliff. That's a lot more the case with running backs than when it comes to wide receivers. If he was turning 35 or something, I would entertain that argument. But turning 30, I'm not really worried about his talent falling off a cliff. Amari Cooper is still one of the most talented wide receivers in this league. He's massively slept on every single year. And not only does this quarterback wide receiver stack have the potential to be the best one in fantasy as far as overall points, you can get these guys at an awesome value because everyone is sleeping on them. So get these quarterback wide receiver stacks on your team if you want to win your league. All right, guys, appreciate you tuning into the video. I will catch you later.